to our June 28th Board of Selectmen meeting. Today's meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with legislation signed by Governor Healy on March 29th, 2023. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. As a preliminary matter, I'm going to confirm that all members of the board are present and can hear me. I'm Bob Springer, chair of the committee. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Jeffries?
Don Jeffries, present.
Ms. Hunter?
Present.
So staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Carl?
Present.
Kevin?
Present.
Okay. So I've covered all that. All right, so we're ready to rock. So item one so citizens, so at 6:30, are there any citizen comments? Mona, any? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on. Item 1.1, Attorney Ray Lyons regarding amendment of a conservation restriction at 25 Wilsondale Street. So Ray, it's up to you, babe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate being on the agenda tonight. This is sort of a time-sensitive matter. And at some extent, it's a much ado about nothing, but it's something that's very important to be done.
I mean, there was a lot of document to read, Ray.
For a little tiny change.
Yeah.
So the current conservation restriction that Kay and Woody have on their property says that if any part of it is ever extinguished, the conservation restriction, that it would need to go through the approval process that's described in General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 32, which includes a public hearing by the selectmen and approval by the selectmen. And then it also states, and potentially with judicial proceedings, if required under law. The IRS has decided it wants it to be absolutely certain that judicial proceedings will happen if that occurs. And the problem is that if it's not in there and Kay and Woody are audited, the IRS would deny their entire tax deduction and could charge them penalties and interest on top of it, because that's just the world where the IRS is right now. So Congress has provided this special window that ends on July 24th to amend it, to have special words put in there. And that's what's in before you, is to get the special words in there that basically says, if the government ever takes this property for a school or a road or a pipeline or what have you, that it would require judicial proceedings on top of what's required under Mass General Law. And it's just to protect Kay and Woody. So that's what this is all about. I would very much appreciate your approval. And of course, we'll answer any questions.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. John, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Ray, so thanks for doing this, and thanks for being here tonight. In preparation for this, I went back. When we accepted this, we accepted Dr. Peterson's and Woody's request or CR. At the same time, we did others. Where are the others?
So this is not a mandatory change. This only applies to conservation restrictions that have qualified for an income tax deduction. And then it's up to each taxpayer to decide whether they want to avail themselves of this limited window to protect their deduction. Kay and Woody did everything right. They like to know that everything is done as safely as possible. And so they have chosen to ask for this amendment to their conservation restriction to make sure that the IRS won't give them any trouble.
And Ray, were you the attorney for the others?
No.
Okay.
Well, I've done a few conservation restrictions. I've done a few conservation restrictions in Dover. The other possibility is the look back period for the IRS to review and challenge someone's income tax return is 3 years from the day they file their tax return. So for people who file their income tax returns regarding one of their donations, say in 2018 or even 2019 for the previous year, they're beyond the statute of limitations. If the IRS hasn't challenged them yet, they're not going to get challenged. Kay and Woody recorded their restriction in December of 2019. That means that they filed their income tax return in 2020 that claim that deduction, and we're still within the 3-year window.
Got it.
So John, I don't think there's a way of contacting, so are you thinking about providing notice?
I don't know, Bob. I don't know if we, do we have a fiduciary duty? Because we've accepted, is this a idiosyncratic opportunity that Ray is just advising Kay and Dr. Peterson of? My memory serves me correct, and Robin, and you can weigh in on this, but we did 4 at the same time on the same day. That there was a package that included 4 applicants, or 4, that's the right word, but 4 requests. So we did them all at the same time on the same day.
So then we would have the information.
Yeah, we have the information. We just would have to go back to our records in December of 2019. And I just recall that at that meeting that we had at least 3. But I don't know. I'm just wondering where the others were. So
I mean, I don't really see, Ray, you can pop in here. I don't see any harm in going back and letting people know that this is going on in case they've missed it. Robin, do you?
Well, I'm not sure it's our responsibility.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's sort of like a Good Samaritan Act.
Right. I mean, everybody, it's their own,
Yeah, it's their CR, right?
Right. It's their CR. So I don't see any reason to deny this for the Petersons. They came forward. This is important for them. I think having a CR is a benefit to the town of Dover. So I don't see any reason why not to approve this for them. We could let others know that this is there for them, but it's not. I don't feel comfortable giving anybody tax advice.
Oh, no. It would just be a notice of
right.
Sort of a notice. Have you seen
I
this
think
notice?
Mr. Lyons is an advisor to the Petersons, and he is giving them this advice.
Yes.
I don't see any reason why we don't approve this. The other members that got these CRs, they have their own counsel.
Yeah, I agree. It really is. I mean, I think John's coming from, like I said, a sort of a Good Samaritan position, just making sure that people that we know, are you aware of it? Because this stuff could go in the bin pretty quickly, I would think. Ray, do you have a view?
So I can tell you that for all of my clients, I let them know about this possibility, and most of them declined. And the primary reason being because my first line would be to them, if you've used up all your tax deduction and you filed your tax return more than 3 years ago, ignore this note, because don't worry about it.
Okay.
And then for the second part, there's some risk to people in doing this amendment, because the grantee, which in this case would be the Dover Land Conservation Trust, will have to make note of it in their Form 990 that they file with the IRS next year. And so it's sort of flagging the IRS that's like something was changed. The Petersons, because everything else about their restriction is good and solid, feel really, really comfortable about asking for this amendment to make sure that there's no bullet holes possible on theirs.
Okay.
The other thing is, this has been, so DLCT has been aware of this, and I'm sure has let anyone else who's done business with them aware of this possibility. And it's been fairly widely out there. It's not the selectmen's responsibility to tell people about this. You're welcome to, but you have no duty to do so. The same is true of the Secretary of Environmental Affairs. Your job is to decide whether to approve or deny the CRs in the first place or an amendment to them.
Yes. So
I have a job. I have a duty to my clients.
Yes. So I think this is a specific item on our agenda. And I think we should go ahead and make the motion and see what happens. And otherwise, we may be here a while. So I move to approve the amendment of conservation restriction related to 25 Wilsondale Street in Dover, Mass. From J. Woodrow Weiss and K. M. Peterson to Thomas D. French, Mark Adams,
Adam Zach.
Gilbert G. Mena, Sarah E. Stewart, Sarah Molyneux, Henry B. Faulkner, John Shue, Stephen Bates, and David Yucknat, as they are the trustees of the Dover Land Conservation Trust, as being in the public interest pursuant to Section 32 of Chapter 184 of the General Laws of Massachusetts. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right. All in favor? I, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Ray, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I want to thank the selectmen very much as well. We're under very tight deadlines to get these through all the approvals, including the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, so we can get it on record by the congressional improved authorized deadline of July 24th. The next 3 weeks are going to be flying for me. So I really appreciate your prompt attention to this. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Ray.
No vacation for you, Ray.
I'm sneaking a little one in tomorrow. What I would ask is if you have an opportunity to stop by Town Hall and sign so
Sure.
that Mona can.
You're
scan it
very
and send it to me.
needy.
Yeah. You know,
So
my
we can
signature's
do
going
that.
for $25 a signing now.
Yeah, Ray, there's a, we have a signing fee that goes along.
You know, I just pass it along to my clients.
Hey, don't worry, Mona will be sending us emails starting tonight.
Probably, yeah.
Very
We
much
look forward
appreciate
to,
your action on
again,
this.
thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
All right, so I'm going to move on to item 1.2, discussion and vote, Ray, salt shed replacement and stormwater improvement at the DPW. Now, I got a note that I thought it said that maybe that is 1.5, the appropriation transfer. Okay, so Kevin, my feeling is this one's up to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight I'm looking for the board to authorize the town administrator to enter an agreement with Weston and Sampson to engage in the final design, permitting, and bid phase of a new salt shed here at the DPW and the adjoining stormwater system. The stormwater system was undersized from the get-go. So part of this work, they'd be addressing that. It floods the area of the parking lot that recedes to the salt shed. This is on my capital for next year. So I was trying to leverage surplus in our budget this year to be ahead of the game with the design, bid, and permitting, so that we have a hard number for town meeting. Our salt sheds was built somewhere in between 1984 and 1986. I attached the feasibility report. We also looked at the fuel island, which is in future capital years here, as that's hitting its end of its lifespan as well. Our salt shed currently is a 40 feet by 72 feet and holds approximately 1,000 tons of material. It's obviously a critical facility to provide public safety in clearing of the roadways in the winter months here. So the goal would be to have this all lined up for town meeting so that construction could begin in the summer and we wouldn't be down our facility during the needed months of the winter.
So Kevin, square the numbers for me. Preliminary design says 30,500, right?
Yes.
And the request for the money transfer is 20,916.42.
It's a additional surplus that we have in snow and ice account. So the reserve fund transfer is to cover that delta for the full 86,500, which takes us into bidding. So that handles all of our necessary compliance with permitting, the design, and then the bid phase.
And the money is in the current budget.
Correct.
And so, okay.
So with approval tonight, we'd be in the appropriation transfer. I would be doing encumbrance to carry the money over to engage in this work.
Okay.
pending your vote.
And the idea is to present this in, for fiscal year 25 capital.
It's on for this current year. So instead of using the feasibility number, which in that report has a rough estimate of the construction cost, that we could really hone in on a better number than, just the work off a feasibility report.
Right, which from a capital budget perspective really would help save time and also help save the DPW a lot of legwork. It would be great to actually have bids that we can vet during the capital budget process. So I think what's important is we're not approving the reconstruction of the salt shed, but rather we're approving a consultant to provide us with more accurate cost estimates so that when it comes to capital, we're one step ahead and we're not waiting until the very last minute, which was a lesson we learned this year with the Claybrook Road. It's really a lot better to have these things ahead of time. Otherwise, we're waiting till the very last minute.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rob, John?
I agree as well, and I just think it's prudent because I can tell you, and all of you know this, and certainly Robin and I have a lot of experience in construction management over the past 2 years. On a personal note, things don't happen in a timely manner, and the process takes longer than you think.
Okay, then.
So Kevin, since this is not just the salt shed, but it's also the stormwater, can we use, I know you applied for that Mass Works grant, and I think that covered some of the construction for the stormwater. Is that right?
No, the MassWorks grant was exclusive to construction funds for Willow and Dedham Street culverts.
Thank you for the clarification.
And
Right.
the grant that I recently received through the DEP is to do asset management to collect culverts, catch
Okay.
basins in the outfall. So we have critical failure and actually a number of assets in those locations.
So I have two questions, Kevin, that have to do with just the construction phases of this as it pertains to there's 3 abutters that are going to have these questions are going to come up, or they're going to ask me about the demolition of the existing barn, then where the material goes after the testing is completed while the construction happens. You and I have had the conversation, you've talked about this in the past, that the site, the yard is very undersized. I think was your exact words with respect to material. And is there a way we can incorporate a expansion of your other site, specifically at the site behind the Carroll Park, where to utilize some of these materials in anticipation for a expansion of the yard at some point in time?
So basically where the salt shed is, that footprint is going to remain the same, and that's just for ease of permitting. The slab itself is on a concrete slab, so the actual soils that will have to be removed will be minimal. It'll just be for the actual footings of it, which are basically precast concrete. I believe they're 6x2s by 4s. So the actual soil that they need to remove for this is going to be minimal. So I think your comments more in regards to the actual Coltech, the drainage system, is that's going to be kind of a combination of removing materials and storing them. But that's certainly an option we'll look at. A lot of this stuff, when it's pulled out, it's considered hazardous waste. So it has to leave the premises and, have a bill of landing and a manifest and that sort of thing. But those are all the type of construction phases and everything that'll be evaluated during the design.
Yeah, those questions are going to come up because obviously from a water penetration, there's the 4 abutters on Haven Street have wells. The abutters on Meeting House don't, but they're, then the water that seeps down into Church Street, they all have wells. So So it's a combination of those folks are going to have questions about just the material in general. What's the impact, and is there?
So John, that'll come up later, right? This item is pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll come up.
That'll come up during the permitting phase with the conservation. There's a list of abutters that basically from the footprint of the project, and they all get mail notifications. So
Yeah.
they'll be aware of the meeting date.
They're just going to ask, where's it going to go? That's, where does the material actually go while we're doing the construction project?
So Kevin, that's on your to-do list. Find out where that stuff goes. I'd put it up on, above the highway department there, and whatever that street is in the background.
Very, very.
In any event, sorry, John. I move to approve the salt shed replacement and stormwater improvement project scope of services submitted by Weston and Sampson, and authorize the interim town administrator to sign the proposal. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
All right,
Thank you to the board.
no problem. Let me go back. We're looking at okay. Item 1.4, board, committee, commission, and staff appointments.
You got 1-3 to do first.
Did I miss 1.3?
You're moving
Oh,
to
sorry.
next.
Sorry, yes, discussion and vote for a contract for designer services amendment number 3 between Dover and Fenwick McCready Architecture. So I'm going through this 86-page, document here.
So, Mr. Chairman, as you know, this is related to the redesign or the rebidding work, I should say, for the community center,
Yeah,
which has turned out to be successful in terms of both town meeting and voter approval. There's an additional fee for the architect to go through that rebidding process. So this change in the scope of service of this amendment is for $49,000 for the additional bidding work. And this was built into the overall additional amount of 6.6 million that was approved by the voters and by town meeting.
it was included in that, huh?
It was included, yes.
Thank you. Folks, John, any questions?
No.
Robin?
No, seems like inflation once again.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could ever get there. I move to approve contract for designer services amendment number 3 between the town of Dover and Fenwick McCready Architecture, and to authorize the interim town administrator to sign the amendment.
Seconded.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Okay, so now it's 1.4.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so item 1.4, board, committee, commission, and staff appointments. John, you had a question last time we did this about if this was sort of SOP. And so before I go into that, I mean, is there a continuing issue, or should we do it the way we did it?
I think we covered it, but
I just didn't. I remembered you sort of surprised about how we did it.
Yeah.
If that's bygone news, then we're going to move on.
I think it's yeah. I
Another shot of bourbon, you'll remember.
no, I remember.
All right, sorry. So the chairs of the town's boards, committees, commissions have requested that the Board of Selectmen appoint or reappoint individuals to their board, committees, commissions. Additionally, staff members whose terms have expired will be appointed or reappointed to their respective positions. So I have a couple of notes here. The appointments do not have to be voted on individually. The attached sheet should be read, and all individuals can be appointed. That's what happened last time. All right, so I will read the appointment. The following individuals will be appointed for one-year terms effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Police officers: Jeffrey Lynch, Ryan Menees, Todd Wilcox, Charles Marsher, David Chasen, Nicole Batcher, Hefferman, Richard Collmore, Joseph Woodland, Karen Kolodacek,
Very good.
Bruce Whitney, Robert Young, Edward McGuire, Colin Young, Ryan Sullivan, Hasnian Ali, Donald Cahill, Matthew Lavery, and I don't know why Donald Cahill was beyond there twice. Is that just an error?
Yep.
Okay, so I like the right-hand column way better than the left-hand column because all the names are easy. The following individuals will be appointed for various terms. Board of Library Trustees: Adrian Hill resigned on 6/13/23 after 10 years of service. That's a loss, Aaron, isn't it?
It is if we didn't have who we have coming in.
Well, I don't know about the guy coming in. I mean, I know his reputation, so he's no Adrian Hill. Let me tell you that.
This is accurate. No, who is though?
There's very few.
Right, but if anybody knows about the library, it's the incumbent. I think it's a special place for him and his family, so.
The library trustees voted to appoint Rob Andrews. Rob Andrews, say hello. To replace him and are asking the BOS to support the appointment. Council on Aging, reappoint Maureen Dilge as a full member, 3-year term, effective July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026. So on Rob's appointment, do we have until May 2024? Okay. To fill the vacancy until May 2024. Got it. Town Report Committee, reappoint Kathy Well, 3-year term, effective July 1st. 2023 to June 30th, 2026. Alternate Building Inspector Report, Felix Zemmel, 1 year, effective July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Recycling Committee, Desmond Brown has left over, and resigned from this Recycling Committee in April 2023. The committee is asking the BOS to appoint Matthew Hadge to fill the vacancy. And then reappoint Jean Luthi and Wendy Mullers. So Carl, I did it that way. Now, can I just do the motion?
So Bob, I think the only thing you need to do is you should mention that Matthew Hedges is going to fill an unexpired term that expires on June 2025. That's the only.
I'm sorry, who's this?
Matthew Hedge, the recycling committee.
Okay. So you covered it, right?
Other than that, it was perfect.
All right. Well, you covered it.
Right.
And Donnie Cahill is not a twin, Bob, so that was just a typo.
Okay.
I assure you.
I didn't see the bottom part. Okay. I move to reappoint all individuals to the town's boards, committees, commissions, and staff members to various positions as presented. I move to appoint Rob Andrews to the Library Board of Trustees to fill the vacancy resulting from the resignation of Adrian Hill, said terms to be through May 2024 annual town election. I need a second.
Second,
All in favor? I, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Congratulations, Rob. We got you back to work for the town.
And
Although I'm
thank,
sure
Rob, I was wondering
you were
how
doing
they did that.
various things, in and about it at Blue Moon. You're home away from home.
Nothing nefarious. Thank you. And yeah, I can't quit you guys. It's hard for me. So
We're okay with that, Rob.
You're not going to give me any credit in the arm twisting?
I
Really?
know Aaron and the trustees
I
are.
know her. We worked on Carol. I know her.
Aaron, your reputation precedes you.
Yes. Yes,
Thank you all.
Yes. So thank you, and I'm excited to be back serving the town.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you all.
And all the reappointments. There's an awful lot of work that gets done by those groups, and we have said many times, we really appreciate all that you do for the town.
Yeah.
Okay, 1.5. Approve FY23 year-end appropriation transfers, Mr. Valente.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is hopefully our final action to help us close out fiscal 23, where we asked the board and the warrant committee to approve transfers from one line item within the operating budget to another line item which needs additional funds. So there's a summary page right beyond your
Page
after your
64,
agenda
if you're
sheet.
following the
Right.
So on the left side are all those accounts which have available funds, just over $98,000 that we would be asking to move to those accounts shown on the right side of the page, where we'll need additional funding to close out the fiscal year.
And it's fine to move things as long as they're expense items. It's just salaries that you can't move, right?
No, you can move anything. The only thing you can't move is school funding,
Okay, all right.
but anything else can be transferred.
So you're not limited to account ranges or anything like that?
Nope, not at the end of the year. You're not. There used to be a limit many years ago, but that was changed, and now there's no further limit on the amount.
All right, so now you're simply just using the money appropriated at the last town meeting to close out accounts that have a deficit.
Right. And there's no impact on the budget whatsoever.
It should be a zero.
Funds from one bucket to another.
Okay. John, any questions?
No, do you just have to, in the motion, do you have to say $98,430.90?
I don't see it anywhere.
It's the total on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. So they
So
met
page 64.
64. It's page 64, 98,430.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, 98,430.
Carl, do we need to say which bucket it's moving from? Like, do we need to say 15,000 from engineering?
That
Permanent?
sounds like reading the town budget at a special time.
I just don't know if that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
It's just because it's an omnibus, it's just the total, and the totals have to match.
yeah. So I think you're raising just a fine point for the town accountant to maybe instead just refer to the document rather than have to read through all of the items and their numbers. Just refer to the Town of Dover FY23 appropriation transfer document.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, what about the outlier? Should you do that separately? The one that came in this afternoon?
That one,
They're related to the salt shed.
right.
He's looking to move 20,916.42.
Yeah. So that will, yes, you should do that separately.
Okay,
Prove that one separately.
so I move to approve the appropriation transfers in the amount of $98,430.90 as presented.
Second,
All in favor? I, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Okay, so we have a late appropriation transfer request from the DPW in the amount of $20,916.42. I think it's coming out of the solid waste account and it's going to the professional service solid waste from professional services snow and ice. Is that right, Carl?
That's correct.
Okay, so we heard from Kevin what the reason was. Are there any questions about this?
No,
Okay, so I move to approve the appropriation transfer presented in the amount by DPW by the amount of $20,916.42.
Seconded.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Okay, we're rocking and rolling, folks.
You?
So next up is item 1.6, approve intermunicipal agreement with Dover Sherburne Regional School District. And the summary, the town and the Dover Sherburne Regional School District will be sharing a human resources director to service both town and staff and DS staff. And Carl will summarize the intermunicipal agreement because it's like hard to read.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We do this, we do the same thing for the region, for the capital.
Yeah, no, it's really a good thing to do, right?
Right.
And
So it provides needed resources, but it's shared.
Right, and then it also gives each town the ability to also have the town and the region, the ability to have a human resource generalist. So you have the high level skill set that both towns need that we're sharing, and then the generalists that can take care of a lot of the administrative tasks.
Yeah.
So I think
Okay, Mr. Valente.
So this intermunicipal agreement is required by the statute whenever you're dealing with another unit of government, and the Dover Sherburne region is a separate governmental entity. So this is required by the statute. What the superintendent and I agreed to is in using a shared HR director, there would be a 1-year trial period. So, both of us, this is new for, the community. So we wanted to, have a potential ending date if it wasn't working out. So it's a 1-year trial period. If there is a transition, if we end up saying it doesn't work, there'd be at least a 3-month transition period that would be involved. The director itself, which we have made an offer on, is an appointment of both the superintendent of DS and the town administrator for the municipal departments. That person will actually, under state statute, again, has to be an employee of one entity. It can't be an employee of both. So we determined that the new shared HR director will be an employee of the DS school district. We'll have office space over at the school administration building as well as the town offices. And the town will cover 40% and receive 40% of the HR director's work and time. And the 40% has to cover will be 40% of both salary, health insurance, life insurance, the workers' compensation premium, general office supplies, and so forth. And so that's, it's a pretty straightforward agreement. If the board approves it, then it will go to the DS school committee for their approval.
Okay. John, any questions?
The only comment that I have is you can judge a person by the immediate reaction that you get from where they're leaving. The people who are going to be very sad to see them go. And I was on the receiving end of one of those phone calls of where this person is coming from, and they were not happy.
You were charged with poaching?
Yes, we've been charged with poaching. We were
If
immediately,
you were in England, that's a pretty serious charge.
in this case, it's a compliment. So I
Okay.
have no questions, questions or comments.
Robin?
No,
Okay, I'm going forward then. I move to approve the intermunicipal agreement for a shared human resources director between the town of Dover, Board of Selectmen, and the Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee.
Seconded.
All in favor, I, Bob Springer.
I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Thank
Done.
you.
Board of Selectmen items. Board members will provide updates on various topics, projects, and initiatives. On the community center building project, my understanding is that our general contractor is about ready to sign the contract. I think it'll be done this week if it hasn't been done already. Comes over to our side, and we'll probably take it up in the near future. I don't know if we'll take it up July 11th or before.
The plan is for July 11th.
Okay, take it up July 11th, and that should get the ball rolling.
When do we expect work to actually start?
They're still talking July.
Okay, oh, good.
Okay, so but that was just a note from John Bates the other day.
Okay,
Do you have any different information, Carl?
I don't, we're meeting with the general contractor and the project manager I believe it's next week, I want to say the 7th. So
Who's the we?
Myself, John Bates, Ford, and I'm not sure if John invited anybody else.
Am I on the list?
I'll send you the invite if you're interested in coming. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good.
It's actually actually now I think about it, it's the day of your special meeting, so it's the 11th. So your meeting's at 8 o'clock, and I think this meeting is at 10 o'clock. If I recall.
Okay.
10 or 11.
Yeah, I'd like to stay active in this project.
Great. I'll send you that invite.
Thank you. Police Chief Search, Mr.
Okay.
Jeffries.
So, you see the suggested motion on the bottom, Mr. Chairman, and
I do.
I will say that with the situation that has come to our attention a couple of weeks ago regarding Katie and the chief's search committee, which we had to address immediately, Nicole has agreed to step into Katie's spot with a similar but yet a bit different set of circumstances surrounding town moderator Jim Repetti's need to step off the committee, Dan Berger. So both Nicole and Dan, longtime residents, known to many people, had the conversation with many people. Both, obviously, Nicole and Dan expressed an interest. We have received their request in writing, and I move their appointments this evening. Be happy to answer any questions anybody has on the topic or the individuals in general.
So John, I know neither of these people. So I really would like you to go through sort of the length of stay in Dover and how they've been engaged with government. Because as you know, this is a pretty significant appointment,
Sure.
and people have very different ideas about policing. And I pointed out to many people over the years that we're a community. It's a community police position, and there's a sensitivity in that position that probably doesn't exist in many larger towns and communities. So to the extent that you can share a little bit more information about both nominees, the two nominees.
Sure. We'll start with Nicole. She works at Harvard. She's was working specifically for the Office of the President at Harvard. She works for political engagement for the Office of the President at Harvard. So has a deep domain background in terms of intergovernment relationships. Specifically, though, Bob, here in Dover, Nicole has been active within towns and volunteering This is an opportunity for her. They've been in Dover for 15 years, and her and her husband Pete have lived. The only place that they've lived since they've been married is here in Dover.
So what volunteer work did you do, John? Do you know? You have it?
I don't have it in front of me, Bob, but I can get that back to you and Robin. But she's known to many different people in town, and I'll get you the very specifics of it, but I don't have it. Just literally don't.
Yeah,
have
no,
it.
I mean, a lot of times younger people are involved with the schools.
Yeah, it's been schools, it's been libraries, that the ones that I know of personally. So schools, library, rail trail, right? Are the big ones. And if you think about, since she's been in town for about 15 years, those are the three big ones that younger couples tend to get involved with.
Right. But
Also,
nothing beyond schools, basically.
no, nothing beyond schools. And
Not that that's trivial. I don't want to trivialize that.
yeah,
That's an
but
important aspect of the town.
It is, and it's what she does every day that really attracted me to her. So working for an organization like she does, you have to be the best and the brightest, right? To be amongst the people
Yep.
who have been there for a long period of
At
time.
least that's what they say. Chicago may have a different view.
I'm glad that you said that, and I did.
Does she have experience with hiring people?
Yes, in that office, they are screening people constantly. They're involved in the hiring process on a regular basis. And again, though, Robin, I don't know the exact details. So with Dan, I can give you a little bit more background of Dan in Dover. So you both may know that he has two kids. Both the kids have been through the school system from kindergarten through high school. Katie, well, it doesn't matter where the kids went, but they had obviously a lot of experience in the Dover school system.
How long has Daniel been in town?
They've been a little bit longer. They've been almost 20 years in Dover.
Okay, and no real, other than perhaps schools, no engagement at other levels of town functions or services?
No other engagement in terms of elected, just through DSEF. Dan's very active in Boston in a lot of philanthropic areas. He's been a career entrepreneur. Wife is a senior executive at Bank of America, and they've been very philanthropic with an organization called The Base. It's a large, very well-run organization in Boston, deals with inner city kids and their ability to reintroduce baseball back into the inner city. If you can take time to look it up, but really impressive organization. So Dan, as I said, has been a career entrepreneur, many companies, startup, lots of hiring experience, lots of fundraising experience. But both of you have mentioned this. We've mentioned it in our search. What we're looking for is diversity, and what we're looking for are residents with diverse experience. We don't have anyone on the committee currently that works in higher education, and I thought Nicole would be a very good fit for that. We don't have anyone on the committee right now who's got lots of entrepreneurial experience dealing with a lot of different hiring, a lot of different personality profiles, which Dan fits.
Well, John, I think that diversity is an important issue, but you got to cover the bases, and the bases here are much more wrapped around what's right for the community of Dover. And you can bring, obviously we all have experiences outside of Dover, but Dover's a different place. And it's really important to me that the people that we appoint to this committee have a good handle on Dover. All the rest of this stuff is nice to have. If you don't have a good handle on Dover, I think that's a handicap. That's just my view. Robin, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I mean, the most important thing to me about the new police chief, or the most important attribute, is understanding the community, because we are, we are a little bit of a different community, and
Exactly.
we need to make sure that the culture in the police department matches the community.
Yeah.
So, I want to make sure that the search committee, that's something that's paramount as they're interviewing these candidates, because I have no doubt that every candidate is going to be qualified from a law enforcement perspective. The question is, do they have the correct attributes for the town of Dover? And that's what's important for me in this committee, making sure of that.
So do you
and
think you
that's
have
where I
enough?
felt that, Chief McGowan has been an excellent fit for us. I don't know, it would have been great to have somebody on the committee, and I can't remember who's on the committee at this point, that had, maybe sat on the last committee, because that was such a successful search, but maybe that's not possible. I just don't, I don't recall the composition of the committee. And I just like you, Bob, am not familiar with the two candidates that have been brought forward.
Well, we have more information now than we did earlier.
Right.
Are you comfortable going forward?
I mean, I would, I think time is of the essence. It would have been nice to know who. I can't remember the composition of the committee.
Well, I think we have enough experienced people on the committee. And I do think it's nice to get a couple of new people on some of these things. So I have, again, it'll be steered by the search firm, right? And it'll be
right. Well,
so
hopefully they, it's the profile. The search firm finds you what you're looking for. It's
right,
committee that
makes the judgment.
right.
So John, who's the senior person on the committee now?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Who's senior on the committee?
In terms of the committee members that have the most, well, I'm definitely the person on the committee that has the most experience in hiring and firing and of people that work for Dover and in Dover, right? There are people who have lots and lots of experience in their particular industry, and policing we didn't make policing an absolute must-have, but we've got people on the committee who have policing experience at many different levels. So
I was surprised to see Jim. Jim has all the town experience you could possibly want.
Right.
I'm sorry to see him leave.
Right.
But Jim doesn't have any experience hiring people. And the person who's got the most experience and policing experience, a former FBI agent who works for Blackstone, has hired hundreds of people in very, very specific roles.
Yeah.
So that's something that we are really, really lucky to have.
Yes, but I'm coming back to, there are a lot of people with experience, but you got to fit the experience into Dover.
Yeah, totally understand. So it's a balancing act. And I think that we have to have balance. And this committee, just like all the other committees that we have, has literally been a mathematical balance of all of the things that we want. What you said earlier, Bob, must-haves and nice-to-haves. I identified a couple of holes that we did not have. Both Nicole and Dan fit those, but
Okay,
they're not perfect. I don't think that we can have a perfect person, just like Jim wasn't a perfect person. And
now it's the work of the committee. It's how it gels. The only reason why I go through this is because I do remember having some overly aggressive police officers in the past. And I want to avoid that because that's incredibly unpleasant for residents.
yeah,
And so hence, that's where I first became aware that community policing is different from cities.
totally agree. And I will also say that, as you both know, and for the people who are watching and will be watching this later, today was the Dover Police Association golf tournament, of which I participated in. It's a great.
How'd you do?
I did exceptionally well.
How often did you use your eraser?
Let's get back to the day. It was a absolutely great day, and you get a chance to be with most of the members of the department and their peers. There are a lot of other police officers and law enforcement people. Jordan Burke, who is the attorney that represents the police association, and his dad were there. By the way, their foursome won the event, so they used their eraser more than anybody else. But the point is, Bob, to your questions and your comments earlier, that spending a day with 144 people who are in this world, you get a great sense of what is out there, because they all know we're looking for a new chief.
Yep.
And also are really aware, Bob, that there are two towns that abut Dover that have had a disastrous experience with their new chief.
Yep.
And
I appreciate that, John. Appreciate that.
so it has not gone well for everybody involved. And what we want to do is avoid a situation like that at all cost.
Okay. Thank you for filling us in, John. So I move to approve the appointment of Nicole Safarian to the Police Chief Screening Committee to replace Catherine Kolowacek, effective June 28, 2023. I move to approve the appointment of Daniel Berger to the Police Chief Screening Committee to replace Jim Repetti, effective June 28, 2023. Need a second.
Seconded.
All in favor, I, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Okay. Upcoming agendas. Robin, do you have any updates to provide, or are you good?
I'm good. I'm
The
just
only
trying
open
to-
item is the strategic water study.
Yeah, we need to get back on track with that. So,
So,
waiting for there was a last study that they were going to conduct. It was a modeling exercise, so I need to check in and see where we are on that.
yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that I remember, the only reason why I raised it is because I looked at Carl's chart today, and I saw at the very bottom of the chart that was still sort of outstanding. So
Well, remember, we expanded the scope to include.
yeah, it's all fine. It's just we haven't spoken about it in quite a while.
And I would just add, Mr. Chairman, on that expanded scope portion, the board approved the use of ARPA funds to fund that. It was about a $40,000 piece, and I still don't have approval for that piece of the work. We're doing it through the county distribution. And they've asked me, I've submitted the request and all the backup, and they've asked me for some additional information, and I got to get back to them. I've just been delayed in doing that. So I've told the consultant they can't start the work, that piece of the work, until I get final approval on the funding.
Okay.
And that's the only open item right now.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, we haven't spoken about it in quite a while, and I think it's good to kind of refresh our minds as well as the public who pay attention. Upcoming agendas, including potential special meeting regarding hail. So our planning meeting is July 11th, 8 a.m. Potential meeting dates subsequent to that is July 24th and July 25th, and Thursday, August 10th. At one point, we talked about having put on the agenda a second planning meeting. And the idea would be we would do the work on the 11th. We would send it to committees for their input, and then we would review in August. I don't see that unless one of them is there.
And Bob, just while you're on that, are we going to keep both the Monday and the Tuesday evenings, or?
I don't know what the Monday and Tuesday. I think it's either or. Which one we want to do? Is that
That's
right, Paul?
correct. That's right, Bob. It's either or.
Okay, so we have to. We'll have to decide which date makes the most sense for us.
Can I put my can I lobby for Tuesday, July 25th versus Monday the 24th for the second one?
Yeah, I'm good with either day. So if you need to, if the 25th works for you, it works for me.
Okay.
I'm good with either date too.
So can we confirm the 20?
It sounds like we confirmed the 25th.
Right.
Okay.
So, Carl, you want to talk a little bit about John? You want to talk about this potential special meeting regarding hail? Would that be executive session to go over the CR or?
The meeting itself, yes, will be an executive session. So, Mr. Chairman, yeah, Hale has asked if they could meet with the board in a workshop or a working session. There's, probably a half a dozen substantive policy issues in the CR that really needs to be discussed among the board members. I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to go down too far down a path without having board input. So they were hopeful that they could schedule some time with the board sometime in later July to have that meeting.
Okay. Okay. Town administrator updates. I'm assuming John and Rob, you guys are done. You guys are okay.
Yep.
Okay, so item 1.8, town administrator updates.
So let me just to stay with this issue about the Hale meeting. Would you like us to get some dates out there and look at mornings as opposed to evenings, or do you have a preference?
Is just us plus the Hale folks?
And likely, I'd include town council as part of it. Yes.
Okay. Does either you guys have a preference?
Well, mornings tend to be really difficult.
Busy for you, right? They're tough for you.
Right, especially Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings are almost impossible for me. I'm kind of tied up from.
How does a sort of a late afternoon meeting sound?
Oh, late afternoon are much better for me.
John, I know you may not like that, but
Yeah, late after it really is a day by day thing, Bob, because typically have to confirm all trades, in the afternoon, just from a compliance standpoint. So that's
so then it sounds like a 6:30 meeting sometime late in July.
yeah, that if yeah,
That works.
yeah.
There you go, Carl.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Could we fold it into the July 25th date? Could we have an executive session?
Well, then I don't know how long this is going to work. This may be a long session. I don't know.
Right.
I think the Hale piece will be a good hour.
Yeah,
maybe
so
a
then I'd
little
rather have
bit
a separate
more.
meeting. Just because I know everybody's brains melt about, 2 hours in.
Okay, we'll get some dates out to you. Thank you.
All right, so it's still your dime updates, Mr. Valente.
Yep, so let me see if I can share my screen. So again, we're looking at the items in green here, the ones in particular I want to bring to your attention. Item number 4, you've already addressed this evening, the intermunicipal agreement for the HR director, so thank you for doing that. Item number 5, the assistant town administrator recruitment. So we have started that recruitment, had probably 40 applications for that position. I went through them yesterday, and I'm only comfortable bringing in for interviews, or at least an initial interview, less than 5. It was not a particularly strong pool of candidates. And in particular, when I say strong, I think it's important to have an individual who has some municipal experience, that we're not, training somebody from start to finish. So it's a pretty small number of people who have municipal experience. So that was a bit disappointing for me, but we'll at least look at, again, this small handful of folks that on paper look worth pursuing. And then I'll, if there's anybody there or candidates who look strong, we'll then loop Michael Blanchard into the process.
Right, so Carl, this is gonna be, and I had this conversation with Rick because I was a little disappointed that even after I asked, the HR director, the offer was made before Michael could even meet the person. So I wanted to make sure, this is gonna be his right-hand person. And I think he needs to be intimately involved in this process. And as a matter of fact, I represented to him that he would be. So I just want to make sure that he is the key person when it comes to making a determination as to who we want to interview and what the right fit is for him.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. I reached out to him already on it
Perfect.
a couple of weeks ago, as we did similar with the HR position. Rick reached out to him regarding that position and put him and Robin in touch with one another. And so, yes, I couldn't agree with you more. He needs to be involved in that part of the process.
So one of the great mysteries of life is what the ATA does.
Yes.
And you say they need municipal experience. To me, what that means is they need to be familiar with sort of the bylaw and the more legalistic end of town operations. We've took away the personnel function, and we now have an HR director in the wings. And so I literally don't know what an ATA does. I've never liked the assistant to somebody position. I like them to have clear functional responsibilities. I like them to have clear objectives. And as I keep repeating myself, one of the things that I had discussed with Dwelly was having communications management and content management being a key part of the role. So I haven't seen anything that lets me believe that I just simply don't know what we're looking for.
Sure. So let me get to the board, the position description.
Hopefully it's not the one that I lambasted the last time.
It is the same one, but if aside from maybe the way you don't like it's presented, the substance of it is critical. And
I couldn't figure out what people do.
And communications is a critical piece of it. Taking the lead on that, which has been a priority for the board, and we just haven't been able to address it adequately since the last assistant town administrator left in November. So that's an important piece of it. Procurement, Massachusetts has very strict procurement laws, and I have to sort of fill that gap in the interim, and there's just a lot involved in that as well, and all the procurements we do. So that's a piece of it. And then probably the third piece that at least Chris and I discussed is what I'll call project management. If you look at this list before you, these are all sort of individual projects in some ways. And we don't have anybody we can assign these to. A number of them you'll see that sort of say they're on hold because we just don't have the staff. So project management, in my view, and Michael Blanchard may feel very differently about it, but I believe the town administrator is going to need his assistant to assign these projects on this list and whatever the board comes up with.
But we have an open municipal project manager position, and under that, we have a business analyst position. That's where project management should sit.
It should. We redirected the funding for the project manager to HR.
We did what?
We redirected that funding for the project manager to the HR position.
What?
And that was
What did you do? What about you took the municipal project manager's position and did what?
we redirected those funds to fill the HR position, and that was done well before I got involved. That was
That was
something
done under Chris.
yeah.
Well, how in God's name did you do that? We went to town meeting to get that funding for the municipal project manager. So how did you do that without any of us knowing, without me knowing or John knowing? Assuming John didn't know.
Yeah,
I
can't-
believe it was at one of our meetings where Chris presented this.
Well, it was never clear. It was clear we wanted an
because
HR
we
director and we
couldn't-
wanted to
right.
move it out from under the
Right,
ATA.
and given that there was no need for both the other positions, so we combined the municipal project manager and the business analyst into one position, and then took some of those funds and created the HR director.
So what do we have? Do we have a municipal project manager position?
Well, remember, we had a very difficult time recruiting for that. We couldn't get a person. So
We need
changed the-
technology. We have no technology capabilities. The last year, we've done nothing except use retrofit. Technology is the key going forward. The person who manages
Bob,
technology has to have a
this is
background.
a great conversation for our planning meeting, okay?
Wait, just can I make one and add? It's a critical item for our agenda for the planning. What happens to the money that we had set aside for the municipal project manager?
It's still there.
Okay,
I mean, we have open positions.
okay.
But the business analyst position was critical to getting things done in the technology side of the town.
Yeah, but by moving some of the tasks around, I remember these conversations with Chris. He felt that we were covering all the needs of the town. And he would be able to find the right people to fill the roles.
Well, he hasn't for a year, so I'm not sure about that.
Bob, you know, with all due respect, we've had other issues that we've been dealing with. You know, Chris's departure was a surprise.
Yep,
Had a lot of other issues. We've had interim, you know, Carl has done yeoman's work
yes.
filling in as interim. So yes, not every project has been followed up on. And, you know, in our planning session, we can go over that, but we have a skeleton crew that are bending over backwards to get things done for the town. And I think we need to thank them for what they're doing. And yes, we have not been able to address everything. And I am confident that once Michael is able to get a full staff up and running on board, and we need to give him the support and the time that he needs to be a success, we will be able to get everything back on track.
Well, Robin, I don't think anybody's questioning our thanks and gratitude for the work that everybody's doing. I think that Bob's questions are along the lines of, we have vacant roles, we have job vacancies, and we still need money. I think my focus is on the appropriations of, do we have the right amount of money that we need to fill these spots? And I hope we're not eliminating money that's going to go or would have gone for spots to accommodate the ones that we are currently filling. I want to do both. I want to be able to make sure we're filling the jobs that we have vacancies for, and we have enough money to continue the searches and continue to fill the spots that we have vacancies for.
Well, John, I would need to go back and look at the minutes, but I do know that Chris presented this HR director, and the way to fund that was to eliminate one of the positions. I can't recall if it was the municipal project manager or the business analyst, but he wanted to take one of those positions, create an HR director position, which he felt was very important, and then fill the second position. So we do not have two positions open right now. We use the HR director for one of them.
Well, that's counter to what John thought, and it's counter to what I thought. Because I thought that we had both those positions, the NPM and the business analyst, junior business analyst, to fill the needs on the other side. And like I did back in 2018 or 19, I went to the town for a new position and they asked for funding. So it doesn't seem to me that we did that in case of this HR director.
No,
But the HR director is only a 40%.
I mean, I am certain perhaps I'm losing my mind, but I do recall Chris presenting this.
Yeah.
So we would need to go back and add a meeting for all of us to concur with.
Yeah, no.
Well, that doesn't mean that one of us might have misunderstood. In any event, go ahead, Carl, sorry.
All right. Moving along, a little bit of a follow-up on the police chief recruitment. So the consultant has been selected, has started their initial work on it. Mr. Jeffries, the consultant has asked to be able to meet with the screening committee, and I appreciate the board finishing those appointments tonight. So you and I can have a discussion about when to schedule that, but the consultant would like to start discussing and meeting with the screening committee.
We can have that conversation tomorrow, Carl, and I'd like to get that. Pick a date, find dates that are available, and communicate that to all the members of the committee tomorrow.
That would be great. I'm going to skip over Hale for a minute. I want to come back to that item. Number 30, the DPW solar array. So we have been up and running for about 10 days and generating both electricity and revenue for the town. My understanding is there's a piece of equipment that has not been running correctly on the side of the building. It's attached to the side of the building, and I heard secondhand the technician was out, I believe it was today, I know it was this week, looking at that piece of equipment. I don't have a further report beyond that, but we know that that piece of equipment was making excessive noise and was not operating correctly. And then last I had on the list, because it was just one of our work items, with the year-end budget transfers and reserve fund transfers, which you took care of this evening. So I would like to go back to Hale. And I'm going to call up a different screen if I could. This may take me a minute, but the question that has been raised is at some of these meetings that are being presented by the trustees about the Hale purchase, the question has come up, well, what's it going to cost for the taxpayers in Dover for this item? And I'm going to try to call up that file if you give me a minute here. So you should have this in your packet as well. So as the board knows, we're looking at a $10 million potential purchase price here. I tried to follow the model that was used for the community center project. So rather than present you with a spreadsheet with 20 years of data, show years 1, 5, 10, 15, and 20 and an average. Show the tax impact at different assessed values, 5 different assessed values. So again, Hale is looking at this to be able to use at their informational meeting. I explained to them that until tonight, I hadn't presented this to the board, and that before they could present any financial impact, I'd have to have the board's review and approval to do that. So that's what this document is meant to do.
So in this particular case, what we haven't done is discussed supplementing cutting the borrowing by, for example, using free cash. We use $4 million on free cash for Carroll. Maybe we should consider using $2.5 million to, sort of moderate the tax increase on this. And I'm not suggesting that I'm suggesting that we might want to add that we would look at something like that to mitigate the tax impact of the borrowing. We're using, what did we say? We're using our ARPA money and grant money for the 6.6 million, for example. So I didn't know if this, these assumptions are made without consideration for ways to mitigate the ultimate cost to the taxpayer. Assuming that people think that might be something we want to do.
But we really don't have excess free cash because we've already utilized it or earmarked it for certain.
We do have excess free cash, right? Because we have more free cash than the model shows. So unless free cash dries up, and again, it's just an assumption. My assumption is we'll have
that free cash was earmarked to help offset some of the impact on some of the other capital. And it's not a huge amount. It might be $1 million bucks. I mean, we do know there are grants available somewhere in the area of $1.2 million that we may be eligible for. It's for the preservation of large land parcels. So we should certainly talk about that. I think this parcel of land is eligible for that. I can't remember.
All I'm suggesting, Robin, is if those things are true, this should be annotated to say,
but we never did.
The town is investigating ways to, including X, Y, and Z.
Right. I mean,
Because this hit me cold water in the face.
Right, but the 6.6 million that we asked the town for the excess for Carroll, we did not reduce that by ARPA funds.
Right, but we've allocated $4 million of free cash
for the previous, not for the additional.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's still $4 million. There was something that I read, many even wrote, about when we talked about the use of free cash in our FAQs. It talked about our responsibility to make sure that various and sundry projects had equal opportunity.
I mean, my only comment, Bob, is I don't believe we have earmarked free cash. So if you would like to earmark $2 million towards this, we should make sure that we have something like that available, because part of our free cash strategy was to earmark the funds for certain.
Okay. That again, it came across to me as a big ask, and I thought we should have the qualifier. That's all. And whether it includes free cash or grants, remains to be determined. Assuming the thing passes. John?
Well, it's just, Bob, what you're saying is in keeping with everything that we had discussed at town meeting, in keeping with everything that we've discussed with regards to capital projects going forward.
Yep.
That we would make every effort to mitigate impact of long-term cash. And we also would have a vision looking forward from a planning standpoint into what this could mean as a meaningful impact on future costs. So with the attempt to try to smooth any of the spikes in tax rates. So I think it's consistent with what we've said, and I think we should look into it. I don't think it's a must to have. I think it's just something that will be nice to have to demonstrate to everybody that we're consistent with all our capital budget projects.
Agree.
So, Carl, I don't think if we're looking for something to vote on this evening, if you're asking us that we vote on something like this, I think this is perfectly fine in its current iteration. And then in the future, we can also add a column to this, or like we've done with the Carroll project, we can just amend it.
I think you need to put the note 3 on this, because once this goes public, people's opinions are going to be formed.
I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't get that.
Once this goes public,
Yes,
people's impressions are going to be formed based on these numbers. And these numbers, I want to reserve the opportunity to affect these numbers by using grants, for example, and free cash. Robin mentioned the third thing, I don't remember. So when it goes out, and that's the way the charts went out on Carroll. They had that note that we had other sources to mitigate the tax impact. I mean, that's consistent with what we did.
I also think that given the median value of a house is 1.5, you might also want to show the assessed value at a 1.8 and a $2 million home, because there are many homes assessed at that.
There was the median was which, Robin?
If you go online, the median is almost 1.6.
Okay. So we're pretty close to.
You know, and if you look on Zillow, they say the median house value in Dover is more around 1.8.
Yeah, that's market, right? So we're probably looking at tax records or something, or the assessor stuff.
That's correct. Yeah, I don't have it for the new fiscal year, but our current median is 1,145,000.
And that was what was presented to the community center folks. Cindy thought it sounded low, and it is low. I thought it was closer to 1.5, but I'm assuming that that's where the information came from.
It did. It came from our assessing record.
Yep.
So would it be helpful to add to footnote 1 a phrase, other funding sources are being reviewed and evaluated by the Board of Selectmen, and make that a general statement like that?
Yeah, that'd be okay. Assuming that John and Robin agree.
yeah.
And
Carl,
then
are you requesting that we make a motion on this, or what would you like procedurally us to do?
Yep. So a vote is not necessary, but at least a consensus of the board to release either this version or if you want to see it changed in any way, to be able to release that to Hale. they are they've been pushing for this for 2 or 3 weeks now, to have this information, because the questions they keep, I shouldn't say Hale's getting, the trustees are getting about Hale. They keep getting these questions at their different information and communication meetings, and
Right, so I mean, the numbers are the numbers, right? I just want that same note that we used on Carol both times, like in 21 and 23, about, you know, using available funds to mitigate the cost. That's all. Taxpayer impact.
Mhm. All right, so I'll, it's okay with the board, I'll add a note that other funding sources are being reviewed and evaluated by the Board of Selectmen to reduce the taxpayer impact,
Mitigate the tax impact.
to mitigate.
John's property is going up. He's going to be a special case. And Robin's estate, forget about it. She's going to be like the top taxpayer in town.
Robin's looking at those per square foot numbers and just
Right.
watching her tax rate go up and up and up.
So is there a consensus then that with that footnote to provide this to the trustee?
Yes,
I'm good.
I'd be good with that. Yes.
Robin?
Sure.
Great, thank you. They'll be very happy to have it.
Maybe not when they see the numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That does it for me.
Okay, items, consent agenda, item number C1. The consent agenda consists of the following: approval of acceptance and expenditure of an $18,240 Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs formula grant to the Council of Aging. Number 2, approval of 2023 one-day special liquor license for June 26th. 3, approval of application for new domestic water service. So, suggested note here. So I move to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent agenda.
So I have to recuse myself for the new domestic water service.
Probably, but can I get a vote on numbers 1 and 2?
I move to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent agenda.
Yeah, but I didn't get a second.
Oh, second. I'm sorry. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Okay. John recuses, Bob and Robin vote. I move to approve item 3 on the consent agenda. I didn't understand item 3.
Item 3 is a line that is going from my driveway to my garage / barn.
So it's all on your property.
It
So
is
why does that require a Board of Selectmen vote?
because it's the town owns the pipe and Aquarian owns the water.
The
So-
pipe going to your house's town?
Yes.
It's part of the municipal water distribution system?
Yeah, we're creating a second tie-in.
So does that replace the first one, or is that an addition? It's
It's an addition,
an addition.
and it's a separate water meter. It's a separate everything. So I'll have 2 water bills that go to number 9, the 3rd to 11, and the 4th will be the 4th. So
Okay.
I will be paying Aquarian Water more money per household than anybody in Dover.
Well, I still don't understand why it's just not, why it has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Because Robin, are you ready for this? It's never been done before.
Well,
I mean, what happened under Colonial?
It hasn't been done for many, many years, but because it's tying into the town system,
Okay,
the selectmen as the water commissioners have to approve anybody who ties into the town's water system.
okay,
But it's, as Mr. Jeffries pointed out, it's very rarely do we find that where you find these. We had to go back, I think, well over a dozen years to find the last time the board approved one of these.
Carl Warnick,
How many cobwebs did you run into on that? suit?
Carl Warnick had to go back to like 1997 to find the last.
Sounds like our investment guidelines.
Imagine that.
Okay. So that sort of clears it up for me. Robin, you good?
yeah, I was just curious, okay,
Okay, so
thank you, Carl.
Well,
where is the motion?
I think it's,
Okay, I move to approve item 3 on the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Hi, Bob Springett.
I, Robin Hunter.
Okay, John recuses himself. So we're done.
Yep,
So I think I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second, I'll second that.
Okay, all
I
in
recuse
favor?
myself.
Hi, Bob Springett.
John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Thank you, guys.